Alright, hi, welcome back to Piano 103 this time. It's the last one. This time we're going to basically do the same thing we did last time, so continue on where we left off. So we're going to continue working on some chords, and there's another groove at the end, and then that's it basically. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so here we are again. What we're going to do today is just basically continue. So by now you should be able to play all the basic chords with all their inversions, as well as extended chords up to the ninth, and also their inversions. So mostly they're going to be rootless chords with the right hand, because you're going to be playing the bass with the left. If you got all that, then let's continue. There's two more things I wanted to add for today. There's of course a lot of other things. We can go all the way up to the 7, 9, 11, so 13, all the way to the 13, and then basically we got all the notes in the key, right? It's not very beautiful like this. But for now I want to focus on the sus2, sus4, and just and also just to add to chords. So for those of you that don't know what a sus2 and a sus4 is, it's basically if we play a C chord like this, C major triad, a sus2 would be to play the 2 instead of the major third, and then there we have a sus2. A sus4 is basically the same thing, but then with the 4. So what's important is that we don't play the 3. This gives it a bit of a more suspense to finally, land on it. And then we're home. So it's a suspended chord, which means, it's suspended. So if we wanted to play this progression F to G, and then C sus4, and the same is achieved with the sus2. And we can also just play the 2 together with the 3 like this. But now it becomes a bit of a cluster here, so what I like to do is just to ditch the root again. And now we have this cool open sound. It still very much sounds like a C major, but it's got a little bit of extra color to it that I like. And you can add those 2s to basically everything. So this is F. Yeah. So now let's try to add those 2 and the sus4 and sus2 to some of the chords. The way I played it just now, like this, it's very much an add 2, but if you play it more up top like this, so we have a C chord, you play it like this, then some people refer to it as an add 9 because it's above it, but it's basically the same thing. Alright, say we have the progression A minor to F to C to G. With all the basic chords it sounds like this. Right, it's kind of pretty with some inversions. Now let's try to add some 2s or a sus4 to it. You see, it gets a bit more interesting that way, without us really doing anything. I haven't played any 7s or 9s, it's just adding sus2 and sus4 chords or an add 2. Now let's see if we can combine the same thing with the same 4 chords, but also try to implement some of the 7s and 9s to it, so with all of it together. Here we go. So the basic chord progression is A minor, F, C, and G. Now with additions, let's for instance play A minor 7, F with the 2, C with the 2, just a normal G, back to A minor 7, F major 7 with the 9, See, it gets way more interesting that way. And all I did was add stuff to the basic chords that were already there. So A minor, it works, you can almost always add a 7. The 9 is somewhat more, adds a lot more color. And to any major chord you can basically add a 2 always. And I'd like with the A minor 7, this A minor 7, it's also when we play the F in the bass, it becomes the F major with the 7 and a 9. Now we're already playing a C chord also basically, so let's also add that 2 there. And then for the G chord, so basic sus4 to G, and we're back home. Now the way to practice all of these chords, because it may seem like a lot, is just to take a simple progression like this and take your time to see what all the options are. So you could play A minor a bunch of different ways. The basic way, the basic inversion, maybe add a 7. You can ditch the root, add a 9. Maybe ditch the 5th, so who needs it. And then you have a lot of possibilities to create all these different sounds with the same chords. Alright, one last thing I want to talk about regarding these chords is different bass notes. So now I've played the root in the bass basically all the time. So when you play a C chord, you play a C in the bass. When you play an F chord, you play an F in the bass, and so on. But we can also choose to play a different note in the bass. The most common notes are other notes that are already in the chord. So for C, the other 2 options would be an E and a G. So a 3rd in the bass or a 5th in the bass. Let's see how that sounds within this progression. So I'm going to keep playing the A minor, the F, the C and the G, but with different bass notes on some of the chords. So there we go. This is A minor. Let's just keep it simple to F. Now I'm going to play the 3rd of C in the bass, so an E. And maybe the D, the 5th of G in the bass. Back to A minor, but with the 3rd in the bass. F normal. C with the 5th. To G with the root in the bass. See, it changes the character a lot of all these chords. This is also just very much experimenting and see what you like. I always love the 3rd in the bass with major chords, and when you already have the 3rd in the bass, maybe you can play with the left hand, with the right hand you can play a sus2, because you basically, that E is already here, and it creates a very nice sound, I think. Set up this. You can play this. there's a lot of options to play the chords. Let's try to see if we can also do this in different keys. Alright, let's see if we can make something work in the key of D. Let's try just also a basic chord progression, which is 4 as G major, A major, B minor to D. So 4, 5, 6, 1. And let's just see what we can come up with only using inversions, extended chords, including the sus2, sus4, and add 2, and add 4 also, and with different bass notes for the same chords. So in the bass form it sounds like this. Already adding some inversions. Now let's add a 7 sometimes, so G major 7, A, B minor 7, D major 7. So we can make the same progression sound enormously different by changing the way how we play the chords, changing the note we play on top, changing the bass note. There's a lot of different ways to play these 4 simple chords. So the best way to practice this is just by experimenting a lot, choosing a chord progression that you like, and see how much you can change about it without changing the core chords that you chose. Another nice way to play this is once you kind of found a voicing that you really like. For instance, say we've got a D chord and you really like it when you play it like this, which is just the root, the 5th, the 2, the 3rd and the 5th again. Just see if you can translate this exact voicing to other chords. So this would be it in D, to C, B flat, A, to D again. You see, and just kind of jump around and see if you can translate it. So another voicing I like is if you play a minor chord with a 9 and a 3rd up top against each other. So for instance, with an A minor chord you could play it like this. So it's an A, the root, the 5th, the E, the 9 and the 3rd. And see if you can move that around. So A minor, 9, G minor, 9, F minor. Sounds a bit depressing, but it's a good exercise. It helps you recognize these options when you play in different keys. Alright, so a thing I haven't talked about that much yet is solos, or if you have some room to fill, you know, the chord lands on an F and you have to be there for a whole bar. What can you do to fill it kind of up? Different little tricks I like to use is just using the pentatonic scale, and the pentatonic scale in C would be C, D, E, skipping the F, G, A, skipping the B, back to C, because pentatonic means it has 5 notes. So when you're in C, these notes are basically always good to use. So if we have the progression A minor, F, C, G, A minor, and the F is really long. Then all those notes always work. All I did was play notes from the pentatonic scale that I showed you earlier. That always works, and it works the same way when you try to solo over these chords. There I use chord notes, so pentatonics are key, but also when we play a G chord, for instance, then we can play the B, of course, because it's in the chord of G, so it's safe again. But the B is not that pretty when we play an F chord, for instance. So chord notes are key, and the pentatonic scale. And you can use those two tricks both for soloing and for playing different kind of additions in between the chords to kind of glue it all together. Okay, now that we've finished talking about all the chords and also different ways to very easily play some lines in between chords, let's look at our final groove of these video piano workshops. We're going to play a song called PYT, Pretty Young Thing by Michael Jackson. Yeah, let's see how it goes. Okay, this groove consists of two parts, the verse and the pre-chorus. Here is just the first part without drums, just the piano. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the first part, the verse. Let's look at what happens there first. Alright, so as you can see, it's written down slightly differently. It's because I took it from a real book. So you see the melody, but we are going to ignore it. We are only going to look at the chord symbols and the left hand part, which is the bass part. And the right hand is playing offbeat eighth notes, like we've seen before. And the first chord is a B minor 7. I chose to play it like this, I skipped the root, and this is the 7, but you can play it any way you like, of course. The second chord is G major 7, which again I skipped on the root. Back to B minor 7, and then this A over B, which is, you can write it down as either an A over B. It's also known as a B9 sus chord, but this is basically what it is. So those are the chords. With the metronome, the chords sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then again. So again, those chords aren't really the hard part. Let's look at the left hand pattern with the bass. Alright, you can see it in the notes, of course, but I'm gonna play it for you a bit slower than the original, so you can see how it sounds with just the bass and no right hand. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, that's it. Let's put them together slowly, again with the metronome. 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's the groove. Slowly, I'll play it once more, a bit faster with some drums now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay, now at the original tempo with the drums, let's see how it sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's the verse. So that's the first part of the groove. Let's look at the second part, the pre-chorus. Okay, the pre-chorus starts just at the last bar of the verse. So let's play it again. I'm gonna play the verse once and then I'm gonna continue in the pre-chorus. And this is the groove without drums or a metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's it. Alright, let's see what happens with the chords on the right hand. So it starts again with a G major 7. So it's B, D, F sharp. Going to an A chord, an E major triad over an F sharp in the bass to an F sharp 7. So no F sharp major 7, but the dominant 7, we want the E. Then it moves again to the A chord with a B in the bass, and then to a B7, so no B major 7, but the regular B7, so with the A in it. And then it repeats, so again the G major 7 to E over F sharp to F sharp 7, and then it goes to a C major triad over the D, and then a spicy chord which is the B7 with a sharp 5 and a sharp 9. So a regular B7 would be a B, a D flat, D sharp, F sharp, A, and then with a 9 it would be the 9, 7, 8, 9 would be the C sharp, but it's a sharp 9, so we want to raise this 9 a half step, so it becomes a D. And they also raise the 5, it's also a sharp 5, so the 5 also goes a half step higher to the G. So now we have these two notes, and we also want to play the 7, which is an A, and the 3rd, which is that note, and then we can skip the root again, because we play that on the bass, and then you have this chord. So B in the bass, D sharp, G, A, and D. So the root, the 3rd, the sharp 5, the 7, and the sharp 9. And that's the final chord before we are moving to the chorus. Okay, let's play the chords slowly with a metronome this time, so we can really see when we should play them. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. there we have the chords. Let's look at the left hand, the bass line. Here it is again, slowly with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. That's it. You can see it in the notes. It's not the most difficult bass line, but together with the right hand it gets kind of tricky. So let's see if we can bring them together again at the same slow tempo and see what it sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go, that's the groove. Slowly, let's speed it up a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the groove. A bit faster, let's do the original tempo now with the drums. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's it. Now, the last thing we should do is put the verse and the pre-chorus together. So here it is, the whole groove with the verse and pre-chorus together at the original tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the groove. If you practice this, start slowly and then basically just work your way up to this tempo. It's again in the original key as the song, so you can play it along with Michael Jackson himself and just have fun with it. Try to play different inversions. I now chose to do it the same thing, the same chords, so you can really see how you could play them in the bass form, but you can always play them at another inversion like this. You see, as long as you use the same chords, then all is well. Yeah, and that's it for this groove. Alright, so that's it for today. We started with the chords, so we did the add 2, add 4, sus2, sus4, and the different bass notes on chords, and with all those, and that together with the extended chords that we talked about earlier and the inversions, you should have no problem making each chord sound just the way you want it to. If you want to go even further with these chords, try looking into the other extensions, so 11s and 13s. And also, like we saw in the Michael Jackson groove, you have sharp everything, sharp 9s, sharp 5s, and also flat 5s and flat 10s, and anything's possible basically. But this is a good starting point. So for instance, you could, if you want to practice this some more, you could also play some of the easier jazz standards, I think. So like Autumn Leaves, for instance, is a good place to start, and just add a 7 and a 9 to every chord and see how far that gets you. And we've also played the Michael Jackson groove, which is a nice combination of rhythmic stuff, and also has some cool chords. So we saw the sevenths and the major sevenths, and also a flat, sharp 5 and sharp 9, which is a very cool chord, I think. Yeah, and good luck with the practicing again, and I hope you learned something from this, and who knows, maybe we'll see each other next time. So good luck, bye!